Where does genius end and madness begin? The history of art is filled with brilliant minds who created timeless beauty. But sometimes, behind that beauty, lies a story of obsession, violence, and pure, unsettling strangeness. Today, we're going down the rabbit hole. We'll be ranking some of history's greatest artists on our crazy meter. We'll start with the merely eccentric and descend into the truly disturbed.
First up, the king of pop art, Andy Warhol. On the surface, he was a cool, quiet center of New York's art scene. But behind the scenes, he was a compulsive hoarder. Warhol collected everything: pizza dough, airplane menus, receipts, fan letters, a mummified human foot he bought at a flea market. He sealed it all away in over 600 cardboard boxes he called time capsules. He saw it as a form of art, a portrait of his life. Now, let's turn up the weird. Salvador Dali wasn't just a painter. He was a walking, talking piece of performance art. His entire life was a spectacle. He once showed up to give a lecture in a full, deep-sea diving suit, nearly suffocating before they could get the helmet off. He claimed his iconic mustache was an antenna that received alien signals. He even took his pet anteater for walks in Paris. With Dali, the line between man and marketing stunt was so blurry, it was practically a smudge. He was a master of self-promotion, earning him a solid 4 out of 10. From the surreal to the sublime, Michelangelo, one of the greatest artists who ever lived. He created divine beauty, but he himself was, to put it mildly, disgusting. According to his biographers, Michelangelo's personal hygiene was atrocious. He rarely bathed, and often slept in his clothes and leather boots for so long that when he finally took them off, his skin would peel away with them. He was so consumed by his art, he let his own body fall into filth. A genius, for sure, but a smelly one. That surprising detail brings him to a 5 out of 10. And here, we cross a line. We're moving past eccentricity and into genuine torment. You all know this painting, The Scream, but this isn't just a work of art. It's a diary entry. Edvard Munch was plagued by anxiety, depression, and hallucinations his entire life. He once wrote about the moment that inspired The Scream. I was walking along the road with 2 friends. The sun was setting. I felt a wave of sadness. I stood there trembling with anxiety, and I felt a vast, infinite scream tear through nature. His art wasn't for us. It was a way for him to process his own personal hell. That raw, unfiltered pain scores a 7 out of 10. You knew he'd be on this list. Vincent van Gogh, the ultimate tortured artist. A man who felt everything with a terrifying intensity. His art is beloved now, but in his lifetime he was a commercial failure, crippled by poverty and severe mental illness. And then there's the ear. After a violent argument with fellow artist Paul Gauguin, a distraught Van Gogh returned home, picked up a razor, and sliced off a piece of his own left ear. But the story gets more disturbing. He didn't just throw it away. He carefully washed it, wrapped it in newspaper, and walked to his favorite brothel, where he presented a piece of flesh to a woman there as a gift. A tragic act of self-mutilation that puts him at a high 8 out of 10.
This is the story of a man's mind turning to black. Francisco Goya started as a celebrated court painter in Spain. But later in life, after a severe illness left him deaf and isolated, his art descended into a private nightmare. He painted a series of 14 horrifying images, known as the Black Paintings, not on canvases, but directly onto the plaster walls of his own home. They were his private murals. This one, Saturn devouring his son, depicts a father, driven by a prophecy that his child would overthrow him, eating his own son. Raw, cannibalistic horror, painted on his dining room wall. These were never meant to be seen by the public. This was a man painting his demons, for an audience of 1, a chilling 9 out of 10. Our previous artists were tormented by their own minds. Our next artist was the tormentor. Caravaggio was a master of light and shadow, and his life was just as dramatic. He was a rock star painter in Rome, but he was also a violent, hot-tempered thug. His rap sheet was a mile long: assault, carrying a sword without a permit, harassing city guards. But in 1606, he went too far. During a duel over a tennis match bet, Caravaggio stabbed and killed a man, Ranuccio Tomassoni. With a murder charge and a death sentence on his head, he spent the rest of his life on the run. He wasn't just a tortured artist, he was a killer. That puts him at a full 10 out of 10. But there is one final level, a place where art is not born from pain, or even from violence. A place where it becomes a trophy for pure evil. This is John Wayne Gacy. To his community, he was a friendly contractor and a children's entertainer who performed as Pogo the Clown. In reality, he was a serial killer who murdered at least 33 teenage boys and young men, burying most of them in the crawl space of his home. While on death row, Gacy began to paint. Thousands of his paintings were sold, and now hang in collections around the world. And his favorite subject, himself, as Pogo the Clown. These aren't the works of a tortured soul. They are the chilling, grotesque souvenirs of a monster, hiding in plain sight. This is where the meter breaks. From quirky obsessions to the souvenirs of a serial killer, the stories behind the canvas are often more powerful and more terrifying than the art itself. It proves that a paintbrush can be held by anyone, a genius, a madman, or a monster. What do you think? Are there any other artists with disturbing stories that I missed? Let me know down in the comments. And if you want to explore more of the dark side of history, be sure to like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching.